Hey guys, I am back because it is E3. So, voice still isn't totally back, but excuse me if I cough. I want to talk press conferences because as of recording this, the Microsoft presser has happened and the E3 presser has happened. And if my hair seems a little frazzled, that's why. And I was actually redoing my kitchen backsplash while I was watching the press conference. I still have caulking underneath my fingernails. So this is what happens when you're not in E3, when you're just watching online. It's not bad. I also discovered when things get rough and I start getting irritated at the press conferences, I can drink bourbon straight from the bottle. It was pretty awesome. And the Microsoft press conference did it to me almost right off the bat, just because Forza is, I called it the Billy Crystal's mom's birthday monologue at the beginning of City Slickers of Gaming. It is the same every year, to the point that even the technology does not get me excited enough to get through the Forza exactly the same now with Porsche's stuff, that they're trying to make it exciting, but it is the same thing every year. And it is not exciting. And the fact that they started with Forza meant that they didn't have anything else. And that's a big Microsoft tell. Remember back in the days when they used to start off with Call of Duty? Oh man, those days are gone. I expect we'll see Call of Duty at the PlayStation press conference. Right. It's not that Microsoft didn't have some interesting stuff to show. Cuphead looks awesome as usual. We finally have a release date on Cuphead. September 29th, I believe it was. I'm recalling from memory. Exciting. Ori looks like it has some potential. They had that cute little game with the fox. I didn't catch the name of it, but it looked a lot like Sonic, but it wasn't Sonic, and it looked a lot like Skylanders, but it wasn't Skylanders. I am happy when there's some sort of furry contingent in a video game press conference, because it's a kid-friendly game. And those are important now that Toys to Life has kind of had the biscuit. And I'm trying to think of the other stuff, and this is the thing. The thing I really got excited about, and it's third party, it's not an exclusive, was Shadows of War. Middle-earth Shadows of War. That game looks fabulous. I keep calling it Shadows of Mordor, but no, it's not. It's Shadows of War. But that looks so great, and the voice acting and the character designs and everything just made it. It's a game full of monsters. That's awesome. And it was a game that didn't beat me over the head of, look, brunette woman. Approachable, non-threatening brunette woman, which is in every single trailer with a woman. Has there been one blonde? One blonde outside of those Final Fantasy type games. And I admit I was surprised at the amount of Japanish, as I call it, content in Dragon Ball Z and what was Ashen and stuff like that. That's I'm blanking on the other one, Code something, but yeah, it looked like something from the Sony conference, which shows how Xbox is kind of scrambling. If you watched the Rich and Red podcast this week, or listened to it this week, I talked about the fact that Xbox needed to come out with a philosophy, and it didn't do that. It was this pastiche of stuff. There was a real identity lacking. They're really hitting the Xbox One X that I have called the Sexbox, because, you know, if you have the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X, all you need is an Xbox One E, and you have Xbox One SEX. So I'm calling it the Sexbox Triple X, because that's what they're trying to make it be. But specs are good, not great, and that was sort of the theme for Xbox this year. They came in at about a 7, and they needed a 9 because they're trying to get people to buy more shit. You know, it's a new console, and how much do you care about 4K? Most people don't, and I say this as somebody who cares about 4K. Do I care about Minecraft in 4K? Hell no, that misses the point of Minecraft, right? Minecraft is blocks. It doesn't have to look especially good. It's fun, and the building tools are intuitive. I I was excited to see a reference to Crimson Skies, one of the franchises I'd like to see come back as Crimson Skies. I said that on the podcast before E3. And so that made me happy. But overall, it was just, you know, and the thing I get most excited at a console press conference, when it's a third-party thing, that ain't so good. And it's a year with no Halo. It's a year with no Gears of War. None of those marquee franchises on Xbox. No new first-party IPs to really get excited about. I mean, some of the stuff they showed, it looks very early in development. We have no idea when those games are actually going to come out. And Crackdown, again, started off really strong with Ted Cruz going all crazy and all that stuff, and then it just sort of settled into bland. Faces didn't look all that Crackdowny. Crackdown is like super cartoony, super like crazy fun, hitting people with buildings like superpowers kind of thing. And it didn't have, once there wasn't Terry Crews anymore who brought that, it seemed quite bland. And then they closed with, what's it called? Anthem? What a horrible name for a game. Like, Mixer is a terrible name for a community feature because it sounds like, you know, one of those really pathetic singles nights where it's a bunch of people who are too old to be going to singles nights showing up and not talking to each other. That's what Mixer sounds like to me, or some really bland corporate thing. But that BioWare Destiny competitor, it just looks like all the mistakes the Old Republic made. Because what BioWare does well is story and character. What did that trailer not show? Story and character. It was the environments. And yes, we know BioWare does pretty environments, but who cares if the gameplay and the story aren't good? They have to stop giving us environments because they've run out of goodwill after Mass Effect Andromeda. And it looks like Anthem is going to be the next thing we get from BioWare, not a Dragon Age game. So, two things to worry about there. First of all, what's going on with Dragon Age? Second of all, man, is there going to be a Dragon Age? Because if Anthem sucks hard enough after Mass Effect sucked hard, very few developers can come back, like studios like that can come back from two massive failures in a row. I mean, Tor wrecked a lot of careers, notably one of the former heads of BioWare. I still love you, Ray. And I thought that was somewhat unfair, but you think they'd learn. It's almost like BioWare keeps, you know, eating the limp biscuit for EA. They're the last guy to jerk off on that Destiny-shaped cookie, and so they have to eat it. Like, and you can see how I felt about the Xbox press conference. But again, I want to make clear, I can't say it was bad. It just wasn't incredible. And in the position that Xbox in right now, it has to be incredible because they made it pretty clear that their thrust for this E3 is to get people to buy Xboxes that do not yet own Xboxes. I'm not sure that did that. That was, you know, the big cheers were very much for the base, the expansion of the back compatibility, the, 4K upgrades, all that stuff. That gets the base really excited. Community features get existing fans really excited. If you don't have the console already, what you do with it in that regard, those are advanced moves. You know, you got to sell it to people who, I buy box, I put in disc, game goes. You know, that's the crowd that they have to convince. Those are the people that have PlayStations and now have Switches, and now you want them to buy a $4.99 console, which isn't a terrible price. It was better than I was afraid it was going to be. I was afraid it was going to come in at $5.99 based on the way they were hyping up, oh, specs, most powerful console. but the specs turned out to be good, not great. So I guess that's price point was a big factor. Smart. But yeah, I think of the specs on my computer and why would I upgrade if I want a game that pushes those specs. And there's no point because my computer monitor is right in front of me. I don't need 4K. I need 4K for my wall-mounted TV that actually is a 4K TV. But, you know, I have a 4K set and I'm not compelled. And it's going to be one of those things of if my Xbox breaks and I have to buy a new one, I'll get a Xbox, but not before. But Microsoft at least put in a competent presentation. I thought the best pack was a Sea of Thieves one because it was actually presented like a game and gave me a sense. Even though I demoed it last year, it was just the ship combat last year. So the fact that they showed that exploration and the sort of off-the-ship missions and all that stuff, that was an expansion to what they showed us we could do last year. The thing most going for that game is the art direction. Selling this shared world, I think that's I know that's a checkout thing for me just because I do not have the time for shared world games. Those are investments, you know, when you get into that shared universe, shared world kind of thing. I think there is a market for it, but man, it would really have to be cool. Yeah, but at least they were competent. You know, there seems to be some a State of Decay. I should give a nod to. I was a little rough on it on Twitter during it just because of the trailer, that it very much looked like a Last of Us ripoff. But someone pointed out the State of Decay, the franchise, does predate the Last of Us. So okay, that big fat zombie at the end sold me. I'd like to play as him, but that seemed like a cool enemy. I could be an asshole about it, but I will probably end up playing that game. So, you know, kudos there. Only fair. Super stoked about a new Metro game. I love Metro. Some of the best single player first person shooter gameplay I have ever played has been in the Metro games. The level designs, which is a really often neglected part of first person shooter games, is amazing. There's boss fights. It's not easy. Like it's not a cakewalk. There's some skill involved in Metro games. I love the Metro games, so I will certainly be playing Metro as well. And that's what I expect to see from Xbox, is at least one shooter that gets me really excited. So that was definitely there for as well. Like I said, competent press conference. Can't say they made any major mistakes, so to speak, other than, you know, there being a general sort of lack of faces on it. Now, I know why they did that. The people they had there were sort of low energy. They always do that big show and the exclusive, you know, it's just so many times, exclusive. And they were console first exclusives or timed content exclusives. There you had to be very careful and read literally the fine print on the little Twitch screen that I watched it on. But like I said, competent press conference, didn't do anything wrong, just didn't bring the big guns. I think this is a suck back reload year for Microsoft, and hopefully they've got some stuff planned, because I don't see, I just don't see a heck of a lot new to buy when you've got that, you know, what is it, $249 Xbox One S. It's gonna be a real niche market for the X. And you know, anyway, I belabored that. I want to talk the EA press conference, because I am normally more forgiving of EA than most people, but that was a travesty, that thing. Xbox had no creative direction. EA's creative direction in their press conference tried to be so many things at once that it shot itself in the foot. And I say this as somebody who has worked on MTV Awards style shows. I used to work the Much Music Video Awards. And those are big productions that take a lot of work, that require rehearsal, and going out to that parking lot, going out to that environment, I could feel my attention slip every time they did it, except for the post-game show that actually showed like a half hour of Battlefield that was way better than anything they showed in the main presser. And that's their big kahuna, Battlefield. Like, they're doing some interesting things with those darkness levels. The lighting design on that is cool. It was fun as hell to watch that gameplay because the tank got stuck in the trench, and it was, you know, sort of that esports-esque experience done right, as opposed to so much of what we're seeing this year. Oh, but did you notice that guy at the end of Star Wars Battlefront 2? I know I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, but you notice that guy who, so what'd you think? It was okay. I mean, I'm really excited. Like, he caught himself, but even he wasn't really super excited right off the bat about the whole thing. It was okay. And then you saw him go, whoops, I'm not supposed to say that. But before we get to Battlefront, because I have a lot to say about that one, I want to talk to the lead up. I mean, again, EA is an IP farm. And they started with the sports stuff this year, which I thought was actually smart. Get it out of the way so that, you know, the more exciting stuff can come later. You know, they got to Madden, which I was actually going, you know what, this looks interesting to me, this story mode that they've put in with, you know, Mahershala Ali and acting and drama and narrative choice and all that stuff. I was actually intrigued. And then in the post-game show, the guys shilling for Madden acted like such complete douchebags. I'm like, I don't want to be a part of this. These aren't the gamers I know and love. These are the guys that came into gaming lately and beat up gamers. Like, just the worst of jock culture. So, bleh. They had an actor from Friday Night Lights who just acted like a complete asshole, talking over like the star of the game. It was bad. It was bad. The Need for Speed demo outside, the one inside was just so perfunctory. Again, just by the numbers. The one outside had this nerdy guy demoing it. It was great. That's what I want to see at E3. I just want to see people who have so little charisma, they shoot back around and it kind of slingshots into massive charisma. Like, you love him. Remember Trembling Man from Tangled? Not Tangled. Yarny. I forget the name of the game. Anyway, you know, the little guy, he was like shaking the whole time. That's what I want to see at E3. That's authentic. That's people who just want to show off their game. None of this wank box thing. And the FIFA stuff looked very interesting. Again, when they actually got into it, which happened in the post-game show. So it's not that EA doesn't have some decent product. It's just exactly the franchises you expect. Annual Madden, annual FIFA, we're going to get a Need for Speed, we're going to get something Star Wars. But then they showed a way out. And that would have been a completely by the numbers. When I first saw it, I called it the Uncharted of Us 4, because it looks so much like that bro dynamic that they had in Uncharted 4 that I did not like personally nearly as much as Sully, Elena, Nate, or even Chloe, or that character. The high water mark for character banter was the villain of Uncharted 2, voiced by Steve Valentine. I'm forgetting the character's name. But when they were just going back and forth, they really had a great banter. And, you know, yeah, there was some great stuff in Uncharted 3 as well, but in terms of just back and forth instead of kind of bro banter, that the franchise has never been as good. Uncharted 2 is just in general my favorite Uncharted game. But A Way Out, the co-op dynamic sells it for me. I will be playing that game. I am interested because, as I said before E3 on the Rich and Red podcast, I'm looking for co-op. I miss co-op. I think it was a mistake to take co-op out. So, awesome. So, everything I kind of don't like about what I saw from A Way Out is overcome by what I liked about it. And that's all a game has to do to get sold, right? And I didn't talk about Assassin's Creed, but I'll wait for Ubi to talk about that because, you know, I could go on at length with that. I'm a massive Assassin's Creed fan. But I am also a massive Star Wars fan. And lordy, okay, talk about framing and context and what not to do, okay? There was nothing wrong with the Battlefront presentation on its own. I will be objective about that. But I went into it with such a terrible headspace that I probably have an unfair impression of the game because there had been, I don't think, any women on the EA presser before, what's her name? She was the mom on the last season of Sleepy Hollow, and I liked her. But Janine Gafrankar or something like that. But before that, they did their commitment to diversity pack at the press conference. And do that as part of a pregame show. Get that out of the hype. You can't, there are social norms and there are market norms, and a press conference is straight up market norms. So you start talking about your charity work, everybody's going to be cynical. They are in the, you have to tell me why I should take my money. Why should I give you my money brain, right? So you start talking about charity, everybody just go piss off, right? But, diversity in games. Oh, here we go. You know, yes, we've had the parade of brown hair McPonytails again in the women in gaming contingent. Word to the wide, guys. Women look like other things other than a might be white, might be Latina, brown-haired, small-boobed chick. We do come in different shapes, sizes, and colors. Some of us even have different color hair. And they threw to this he for she campaign, which, you know, that is a UN campaign. And I applaud that campaign internationally. I think that in many parts of the world, that is the right approach. But that was so tone deaf to a gaming audience that I was like, and even I, who, like I said, I like the initiative, but I was like, oh, hell no, diversity in games is not a charity. I am not your cause, EA. Just stop that right now. And they did all this charity stuff. And after they sort of put me in the mindset of, welcoming people who are different into gaming is charity. They do their Battlefront unveiling, bring out actress lady whose name I should have looked up before this, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The dress and the hair and the you know, and all these stormtroopers come out, and she's in this dress. She's in one of the mullet dresses, right? So it's above the knee, and it's a straight up the skirt shot. And so and I wouldn't have even commented on that shot because, let's face it, EA is there to sell games in part to horny guys. They have the right to do that. But it was right after saying, oh, diversity is charity. Inclusion of women in charity is something, inclusion of women in gaming is something we do for charity because we're good people, which is exactly not the mindset that we want to have. And then they do that. And it's like, which is it, EA? This is why gamers hate you. You cannot have it both ways. I don't know why that actress was not in her costume from the game. That actually would have been way sexier because it was like all military and stuff like that. I would have thought that was hot, personally. She looked great. Like, don't get me wrong. She looked great. But after that whole lecture about he for she, I was just like... And then they showed Battlefront and tracked the losing team. And the one thing I noticed was, first of all, I am not especially interested in playing bad guys versus bad guys. Okay, I'm not interested in Empire versus Separatist. I'm interested in the lore. I'm interested in seeing what happened between Jedi and The Force Awakens. And I got that confused with Rogue One that happened between episodes 3 and 4. I was just like, too many interquels, too many Star Wars interquels. But I really don't care about anybody involved in that conflict. Like, I don't. They're all bad guys. And I know some people love to play bad guys, and that's fine. I'm not saying that makes the game bad. I'm saying that makes it a game that's probably not for me. But then also, do you notice they spent a lot of time on the Empire, the clone troopers side of the battle? Because the few times they cut to those battle droids, it looked freaking hilarious. It looked like a little baby running around. It looked more like Plants vs. Zombies than like a badass Star Wars game. And, no slight to the battle droids. I admit, when I heard Roger, Roger, I got really excited. I love that from the cartoons. The Roger, Roger, I love that. But it looks silly. And then they bring out those kind of Cylon-style super battle droids or something like that near the end. But then, it was, I think, live gameplay because there are a lot of mistakes. Like a guy crashed himself, which you normally don't want to do in one of those press conferences. But I thought that was kind of cool. But you only saw the stormtroopers, which I guess is what they wanted to show up. But then all the heroes started showing up in the last minute of the battle with Darth Maul and Han Solo and Rey. And I thought that really kind of got lost. All they did was run around. They didn't show any of their like super cool moves. And Rey got wiped out right like within seconds. And I joked that was more realistic than her arc in The Force Awakens. Ha ha. But still, yikes. At least we know it's live gameplay, because I don't think they would have done that deliberately. But yeah, it was kind of a mess. And it was fun. I thought it went on a little too long. But at least the commentary there was pretty good, as opposed to some of the stuff at the Xbox press conference. It just grated. Like, the guy, you had to find the guy whose online tag is Jethro Tull. Not recognizing that that's a band name. That's when they said Jethro Tull was there. I'm like, what? Jethro Tull? No, it was some dude calling himself Jethro Tull because he's a shoutcaster. I'm jumping back to Microsoft, I know, but I'm getting all the douchery mixed up. But the thing that frustrated me about the whole EA press conference was that when I stayed around to watch the actual gameplay stuff, the actual demos. And if people don't know, that's what you usually see in behind closed door sessions at E3. So I thought that was cool. Less for me to have to do. Like, reason I'm not there. Number 53. Number 52 was I can drink bourbon straight from the bottle. But that stuff was more interesting to me and more informative than the stuff in the press conference. Now, I am pretty sure a lot of people tuned out before we got to that point because they hyped up Star Wars, and then Star Wars was kind of a letdown, and then those esports commentators stalled a lot, and then they had some engagement thing where a guy asked, it really felt like EA was selling their community more than they were selling their games. And that's something of a risky approach. That is an approach, I think, that more solidifies the existing fan base as opposed to attracts new fans. Like I said with Mixer, that's for people that are already in the ecosystem. So those are my thoughts. Xbox, 7 out of 10, if I have to give it a score. Needed a 9. EA, needed a 7. I'll be forgiving and say a 6. My gut originally said 5. It actively offended me because of that stupid diversity as charity thing in the middle. So that ain't good. And that doesn't mean anybody else has to be offended on my behalf. I'm just talking about my legitimate reaction at the time as a gamer, as someone who does not want to be treated like charity in my own hobby, right? Yeah, I'll close there. That's a half an hour. Bethesda's tonight. Ubi and PlayStation are tomorrow. I might do a recap midday. I'm not sure. It's touch and go with voicey stuff. But I wanted to get you guys some content because it is E3 and I did kind of have to take a lot of time off last week. So here we go. Thanks.